Welcome to Living Her Legacy. This is your space to discover what it truly means to live well so you can step fully into your calling and truly live a legacy. You'll hear conversations with experts in women's health on physical strength, emotional peace, spiritual depth, and purposeful living, as well as stories from real women walking their own journeys of wellness. Together, we'll unpack what true wellness means because your wholeness is part of your legacy. Welcome to your virtual tribe. I'm your host, Jill G. Sutton. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist, a women's wellness advocate, and a mama of three. I'm actually bringing back one of my first interviews that I ever did with Mallory. It is October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. She was diagnosed with breast cancer during the peak of the pandemic and at the young age of 34. It is time to put your mammogram on your schedule. We as mamas and women tend to put ourselves last a lot of the time, but this is one thing that you cannot wait on. Take the time today, message your doctor's office, get the referrals or whatever you need to get your imaging done. For some, that might look like a mammogram. For others, it could be an ultrasound or an MRI. It is true that early detection saves lives. Let's listen back on this powerful interview that puts living this life into perspective. Hello, Mallory. Welcome to the podcast.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So I usually start out with just asking to say a little bit about yourself, maybe who you are, what you do, where you're from.
All right. So my name's Mallory Piergowski. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. I'm originally from Oregon, which is where I met Jill. I work in continuous improvement or operational excellence. So I'm a director at Simpson Strong Tie, focusing on kind of process improvement. But I wouldn't really say that's what I do because that's just how I fund my lifestyle. I'm a mom. I like to say I'm an adventurer, and I really just want to have fun. That's
awesome.
That's my life every day.
I love that. I have just kind of heard the phrase now that I've started these kind of side projects as my 9 to 5 is funding my passion projects. And I had never really thought about it that way, but I do kind of love that idea of like, I do love my job. I love my 9 to 5, but I also love doing multiple other things as well as trips, as well as, whatever with my family. So I hear you.
Well, and I feel like, getting into my unique story, that wasn't always the case. I do have a PhD in chemistry, so I went to school for a long time, was fully expecting to, spend my life dedicated to my career. And then I had my first kid, and it turned out that I really wanted to spend a lot of time at home and spend time with my family. And so I created a really strict work-life balance rule for myself where I didn't work at home and I didn't do home at work. So I'm not one of those people that opens up my laptop at home, and I typically don't take calls. When I'm home, I'm home. And when I'm at work, I'm at work, and I try to keep the kid stuff to a minimum. So COVID really threw a wrench in like my life scheduling plans. But I've really gotten back to that. So I try to keep that 9 to 5 and then actual life.
Let's kind of get into a little bit of your story.
Yeah.
Where do we begin?
Let's start with COVID. So COVID happened. Let's actually go back, I guess. I do have 3 children. So I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a now 3-year-old. And, going back 2 years to the beginning of 2020, I had a 1-year-old that I was breastfeeding, and, I was being my work mom life. And then lockdown happened, and we all went about our crazy chaos at home and managing 3 children at home and still trying to work. And I went to a doctor's appointment in May of 2020, just my regular OB/GYN appointment. And I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I was 34, in the middle of breastfeeding my kid, have no family history. Really came out of nowhere, just kind of complete shock to me, my husband, my family, everything. And, everybody talks about life slowing down when you get diagnosed. And I don't know what those people were talking about because From the day I was diagnosed to the day I went into surgery for my double mastectomy was 7 days. 7.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I did it in the middle of COVID. So I wasn't allowed to have visitors at my doctor's appointments. It's been 2 years. My husband has never met my oncologist. And I did my surgery in June 2020, again, all during lockdown. It was like a rolling drive-by. My husband drove me up to the hospital, like pushed me out of the car. I spent 2 days in the hospital, and then the nurse wheeled me out and like chucked me in my husband's car. He wasn't allowed to get out of the car.
Oh my goodness.
And then a month later, I started chemo, and I did 4 months of chemo. Same thing, no visitors, no guests, just me and the nurses. They were all great. And then I did 6 weeks of radiation. Same story. Wasn't allowed to have anybody with me, completely by myself. When I talk to other cancer patients about that, they always say how sad that is for them. Like, wow, like that was so hard. My family was so much a part of my story. And I do wish that I had gotten to bring family with me, but there is a level of satisfaction I get from the fact that, man, I did this.
Mm.
Like I did it for my family and I did it for my husband, but I did it for me, and I did it by myself. And man, not only did I do it, I thrived. Like I have come out of this and I feel so proud of myself, and I feel so much more ready to tackle like anything that happens. But if I didn't have a strong work-life balance before, man, I do now. Like I don't live for my job, man, I live for my family. And I had that thrown in my face. And I had that moment of realization that I might not get to spend as much time as I thought with my family. And nothing is more affirming to your path forward than that.
Mm.
So chaos,
I
a great
had,
word.
yeah, I had no idea about the week from your diagnosis to the planned surgery, the double
Yes,
mastectomy.
it was crazy. A lot of it had to do with my age, and a lot of it had to do with COVID. So I was diagnosed when COVID was still right in the crazy heart of what the heck is going on.
Mm-hmm.
There was still mostly all the hospitals had stopped all elective surgeries. And so there was a moment where my doctors were trying to figure out if my surgery would be considered elective or not, and whether it was life threatening enough to move forward with. And they got permission from the hospital to do my surgery. And it was like, take it or lose it situation. Like, we have no choice. Like, we either do it now or it might be 6 months.
Wow.
And we didn't know how fast my cancer was growing. We knew that it had come up pretty suddenly from the last time I had been at the doctor's office. And so nobody wanted to risk it. And so it was like, we got to just do this and move forward. And I'm glad I did it. I hadn't put a bra on in 2.5 years. And I didn't know that was going to be like the silver lining of this whole situation, but
Oh,
great.
yeah. So your 1-year-old at the
Yes,
time, you were still breastfeeding.
I
Obviously, that
was.
had to stop.
That was really hard. I think we still have some lingering issues related to that. It was a hard cutoff for her.
Mm.
I mean, obviously she was still like, she was 1, so she was able to, she was already eating food and she was already drinking some regular milk, but that was how we did bedtime, and that was how we, did after daycare visits and mornings. And not only did I cut her off, I couldn't lift her up for 6 weeks after my surgery. And so she was already kind of a clingy mama's girl, and it got worse. We had a period of 6 months when COVID lockdowns ended and I was allowed to send her back to school, that I couldn't drop her off without her screaming like for an hour.
Mm.
Her daycare teachers have been so fantastic in helping manage her kind of cleanliness and her like extreme need to know that I am there. But it was really hard, probably harder
Wow.
for her than for me.
Right. Oh my
I was kind
goodness.
of distracted.
Is she Do you have two boys and one girl?
I do. My eldest two are boys, and she's my little girl. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. That would be so hard. I have kind of gotten lucky with the breastfeeding weaning journey
Mhm.
as far as it just kind of happened. Like
Yeah.
got to right before a year-ish and that just happened. So I didn't really have to do a lot of that. And especially not something that was like you said, just kind of like cut off. Like,
Yeah. And I think we would have. It would have been, that's how I did it with my elder two boys. I think it would have been easy peasy. Like it wouldn't have been a big deal. And only the fact that we didn't get a choice about it anymore is what made it kind of feel like a big deal.
yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you mentioned something in there as far as really changing your perspective, not knowing really how much time you did have to
Yeah.
kind of build those relationships and be present in their life. Can we kind of like touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I would not have ever called myself a not hands-on mom before because my mom was fantastic. Though she worked full time, I never felt like she wasn't there for things. So I tried to live that with my kids, and I have a workplace that's really flexible with my time. So I got to go to, preschool performances and parties and do school drop off and things. But I think it really cemented how much I want my kids to remember me and
Mm,
remember me as a positive influence on their lives, not only in who they are as people, but in their happiness levels.
mm,
And I'm probably still close enough to the situation where I'm overcompensating, and I'm hoping that over the years it'll dial back a little bit. But I just feel this need to make sure they know how much I love them.
mm,
Like I feel like when you have that moment of, oh my God, I might not see them turn 16. I might not see them get married. You just want them to, like, it sounds so terrible, but man, I want my kids to miss me so much.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so I feel like I have to show them how much I love them just in case I don't get the chance to say it every day for the rest of their lives. And now, I've been cancer free for 2.5 years. So now I am starting to have whole periods of time, days, weeks, that I forget that I had cancer and that life is normal. And I'll yell at them and I'll just be so frustrated and just like, I can't wait until you move out. Even though he's 7, right?
oh yeah.
Like someday I'm going to go out without having to worry about where you are. And then it hits me, right? Like, oh my gosh, what if I don't ever get there? And then I just feel this insane desire to like just smother them in my love. And thankfully they are very receiving of that love so far. We'll see what happens when they start getting a little bit surlier.
Right. Right now
But
they welcome all the snuggles.
they welcome it. And um I feel like we never explicitly sat them down and told them what was going on. We explained that I had to go to the doctor and I lost my hair and I was taking medication that made me lose
Mm,
my hair. And we explained that I was feeling really sore and tired after my surgery and that they couldn't be as rough with me, but we never like explained the situation. But kids are so perceptive, right? And they are, you know, post everything. They are clingy. My kids are very clingy. If I'm home, they are like touching me or sitting right next to me. And it's like this insane need that they have to know that I'm there all the time that we really don't do anything about. Like, I don't do anything about it. And sometimes it's not fair to myself as well because I don't have a lot of time to myself. And I, full disclosure for women, get a therapist because there's nothing better than having someone tell you you're overreacting to things. Not that my therapist would ever use those words, but that you're, putting too much pressure on yourself, because I do put too much pressure on myself as a mom. But I can't stop right now. Like I'm too much in it that even though I know I probably should like tell them to like give me 5 minutes of space, sometimes I can't do it. I can tell my employees in my workplace, like, oh no, I'm home with my kids, like don't bug me, but I can't tell my kids no. mean, the big stuff, they don't get away
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
things, but you know,
I have a
I
question about the therapist. Was that
Mhm.
something that was suggested to you by medical staff, or was that something you sought out on your own?
So
Curious more
me,
so because I'm very pro therapy. I love therapy. I feel
yeah.
like every mom should have a therapist.
So people who know me would say it's very funny that I say that because prior to 6 months ago, I wouldn't have said that. Not that I have any problems, like anybody, like you do you is kind of my motto for life. Like I would never judge anybody who had therapists, but it never was something that I was like, oh, I should have a therapist.
Hmm.
But yeah, when I got diagnosed, everybody, my people I just met in life, my doctor, they all were like, do you have a therapist? Do you have a therapist? And I jokingly told my therapist in our first meeting, enough people ask you if you have a therapist and you start to wonder if it's you. Um, and I went to a doctor's appointment about 6 months ago that went terribly. There's nothing wrong. It was just a bad appointment. You know, like every once in a while you come out of the doctor and you're just like, that was bad. Like I didn't feel like they listened to me. I didn't feel
Mm.
like they understood me. I didn't feel like it was worth my time. And now I'm more anxious and I obviously have some medical anxiety. And I sat in my car after the doctor's appointment and I cried for like a half an hour just in the parking lot of the doctor's office because I was just racked with like stress and anger and anxiety and I didn't know what to do with it. Like I couldn't drive. And I had been given a card from a therapist from a woman who works primarily with working moms and managing stress. And I called her and I got her receptionist. And I was obviously not having a good day on the phone. And the receptionist, you know, bless her, could hear that. And she's like, you know, the doctor has a half an hour free right now if you want to talk to her.
Oh,
And
wow.
this, um, my doctor essentially talked me off a ledge in the doctor's office parking lot. Like, she walked me through some really basic grounding exercises just so that I could get home. And I have been talking to her every week since then. I never miss a week. Um, there are so many coping skills we don't teach people. Like we just don't teach people in this country. Like how to manage that moment of panic in your life, whatever it is. You know, your kid throwing something at you didn't expect, your spouse, your employer, a doctor, a car accident on the street, whatever it is. We all have these moments of panic in our lives. And I feel very good about now I know how to get out of them. I might not know how to process them, but I know how to get out of them. I know how to get home. I know how to get to my safe space. And that's what I wish that everybody could learn
Mm.
because you figure out how to not take those moments of panic out on other people. Because my poor husband is like the end of the chain, right? Like I'm a boss. I can't yell at my employees because they had a bad day. And I can't yell at my kids because they had a bad day. And then I get home and my employees aren't there and my kids are in bed and my poor husband is what's left. And I didn't want to yell at him for stupid stuff anymore,
Hmm.
right? Because he's been so fantastic through all of this stuff, like no bigger supporter. And it wasn't fair to him and it wasn't fair to me. And I don't do that anymore. I've had a good 4 to 5 month run where I feel very confident in saying that I have not gotten mad at my husband for something that was not his fault. I'll give him those things that were still his fault.
Right, right.
And I'm really proud of myself for that because it's hard acknowledging that you're taking advantage of someone else. And it's hard
Hmm.
acknowledging taking advantage of someone that you've been married to for 13 years and that you've been with for 15 years, right? Like I didn't like that about myself. And it's
Hmm.
hard admitting that you're doing a bad job. And that's what my therapist gives me, a safe space to admit, hey, I feel like I'm not doing a good job. And having that positive, calm down. It's not that you're a bad person and it's not that you're doing life badly. It's that you don't know what to do right now. So let's figure out the best path forward and helping me build that next path forward, you know, from things that are as complicated as like how to not live on Snickers bars and ice cream to as simple as how to have a hard conversation with somebody at work. I've found it very empowering and I do wholly recommend it to everybody.
Yes, I am actually, this is coming up on my 1 year of my therapy journey. I started
Mhm.
last December with a therapist, and a lot of it is, like you said, self realizations
Yeah.
and just tying things together that maybe I couldn't see before or didn't
Mhm.
want to see, whichever the
Yeah.
case. You really learn a lot about yourself, and therapy's hard.
So
It's not
hard.
easy. It's hard. And it's, you can go lots of different ways when you get there, but the fact is you learn a lot of coping techniques. Like you said, you learn a
Mhm.
lot of life skills, you learn different tools to push you forward. To
Yeah.
really, it's personal development in a nutshell. It's like,
Mhm. It's honestly made me a better mom. Like I said, I didn't have those moment of panic, like how to get out of this moment of panic. And oh my God, a toddler is nothing but just like constant moments of panic. And that moment on the phone when I was panicking, my therapist taught me a silly little grounding technique called the rainbow game, where you look around you and you find all the colors of the rainbow. And I probably use that with my kids 3 to 4 times a week now when they're mad or in that moment of just about to develop into a crazy tantrum, or they're crying and they can't get out of it. And I'll just ask them really quick, hey, can you find something that's red? And, they kind of are still crying and then look around and they'll point it out and we'll go to orange. And by the time we get to purple, like it's astonishing to me how they just needed to find something else to distract their mind with. So I like the fact that I can now model good kind of moment of panic behavior to my kids as well.
I love that. I love that. I really feel like that's really kind of like is the living her legacy in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Because I really feel like I want to live my best life for
Mhm.
me. I want to enjoy
Yeah.
life. I want to do the things that I want to do. I want to pursue different passions. I also want to be the best mom I can ever be. And I
Yeah.
want to show my kids what life looks like.
Mhm.
And there's so many different avenues that someone can take, but I think giving them, what we're learning now, and I feel like there's so much more information out there now than there ever
Oh
was,
yeah.
especially on parenting and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Um, but really being able to show my kids healthy lifestyle in
Mhm.
not just your food and diet and exercise, but also just mentally,
Yep.
like how to work through situations, how to have conversations, how to repair relationships. All these things are going to come up, and they need to know about it. They need to see it firsthand so that they can then live it out in the classroom, live it out in their friendships and their relationships. So I love that.
So much. I'm big on routine with my kids. We've got our daily routine since every parenting book in the world says you need a routine. But there's nothing about life that is routine. I try to keep my kids' routine the same every day, but I do that by destroying my own,
Mm.
right? And I have work and I've got home and then I've got my own mental things and my husband and our pets and our families and being a mom and a full-time employee and also having medical stuff is nothing but moving from moment of panic to moment of panic to moment of panic. And some of them are really big and some of them are really small. And I didn't realize that until I learned to recognize a moment of panic. And now I don't even notice the small ones as much because my body doesn't even recognize them as, oh, we're panicking right now. But yeah, that's my thing is I want my kids to see that like you can have routine, but you really need to learn how to figure out how to respond when things go off routine.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I both have PhDs, so education and schoolwork are obviously really important to us. And my kid came home from school the other day, and he said, me and my classmates were talking about what makes us, good people, and they were doing this little, I don't know, thing at school about, what makes good habits. And, he said, and I said it was good to be really smart. And I said, it is good to be really smart. That's great. But I would be so much happier if you were really kind. That's what I want them to see, right? Like, I want you to grow up happy, and I want you to grow up healthy, and I want you to grow up successful. But I really hope that when you do that, the people around you recognize the positive contribution that you have to their life. Because I hope people see me in their lives as a positive contribution.
I actually pulled my Instagram account one time on what would be the most important thing to teach your kids. What was the most important thing that you want your kids to see? And kindness was number one. Like everybody just craves that.
Well, we forget so easily when we're adults. We all teach our kids, right? You have to share, you have to be kind, you have to take turns. And then we all grow up and we just throw it out the window. I see it all the time at the grocery store, in my workplace, everywhere, driving. Nowhere better to see it than when you're driving. And I use teaching my kids as a constant reminder to myself as well. Like, that guy turned his blinker on. It's okay to slow down and let him merge in front of you, right? We're all sharing the road here. We're all trying to get somewhere. And I love that my kids help me be better, because that's really how I look at it, is I want them to be better. And so I'm teaching them these lessons, but at the same time, I'm reminding and teaching myself.
We learn a lot.
We learn a lot.
I think after going to graduate school, I felt like, man, I was a perpetual student. You know how that feels. I just love learning. But after starting a family, I feel like that's the most self-reflection I've ever done in my life. Through any hard thing, this is the time when you really learn about yourself.
And the thing about being one of those like super education focused people is that is how you live your life. It's definitely true for me. I just want to learn about everything. Right. And it has made me very successful in my job and in my career. And I wouldn't turn that off about myself at all. But at the same time, there is that self-reflection that like you have to also take a moment to breathe, because I will constantly fix myself if I could. Like, it's just always, all the time. I just find little things to nitpick about myself, about the way I am as a mom, the way I am as an employee, the way I am as a person, as a spouse, what I ate yesterday, everything. I could just nitpick myself to death. And I feel like a lot of that comes from that hyper education, because you're just constantly trying to do better. And I have to remind myself all the time, man, it's okay to really suck for a particular day. Like, it is okay to fail. It is okay to completely mess up. But you have to not beat yourself up when it happens. And you have to not hyper focus on it, because I feel like my educational history, like I had to teach myself how to not constantly teach myself, which is probably a little bit counterproductive, but I would be reading self-help books every single day of the week and then not making any changes.
I hear you 100%. That is so I am taking a class for podcasting from Kathy Heller, who has a podcast called Don't Keep Your Day Job. Wildly successful. And her phrase in this class is do it messy. And that is hard. It is hard to put something out there in the world when you're, like you said, a perpetual student. Especially like for chemistry, I'm sure you have to be exact. Medicine and for physical therapy, you have to be exact. Your wording has to be correct. It cannot be misinterpreted. So in order to put out, content and do it messy is something I am learning, like myself. And it's hard. It's hard to do. But
and I feel like our generation is also this, like, I wholly admit that I watch TikTok videos, like when I need that 5-minute break from life. And the ones that I always find myself watching again or focusing on are the ones where they're making fun of millennials for wanting everybody to like them. Because I'm like, oh gosh, that's us.
Yes.
We are a generation of hyper people pleasers and little perfectionists. And we all want to be straight A students.
Mm.
And man, we did not teach ourselves to fail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I want my kids to be kind, but I also want them to be kind to themselves.
Yes.
And
I,
and I don't feel like we learned how to do that.
mm-mm. I had an interaction with my almost 5-year-old in the car last month, and she had got ink pen on her hands. And she said, "I'm so sorry, Mom. I got pen all over my hands." And I said, "That's okay. We'll wash it off. Like, not a problem." And she was like, "You would never do that. You're perfect." And I was like, what am I showing to her?
Yeah.
That she felt she had to apologize at 4 years old, apologize to me because she got pen on her hand. And
Yeah.
it really broke my heart. But
Oh yeah.
for that fact that we do feel that, I feel that pressure to be perfect, to have it
Yep.
all together, to have it right.
And then, and I will say again, those crazy silver linings that you find in life, man, when my life crumbled, I couldn't be perfect. It
Mm,
was impossible. And I got asked all the time, well, how did you do it? How did you do it? And I finally figured out a good way to explain it. And every morning I woke up and I was juggling. Okay. And I was juggling, 5 to 10 things every day, myself, my kids, my husband, my education, my job, just all those things in your life. And my job every day was to figure out which balls I could drop,
mm-hmm,
which ones are going to drop, and they're made of plastic, and so they're going to bounce, and which balls, if I drop them, are going to shatter because they're made of glass. And today I have to focus on the glass balls, and they change
mm-hmm,
every day,
mm-hmm,
and sometimes they change halfway through the day. And I do feel like I now have a good handle on doing that little mental math to go, okay, which ball is glass right now? And sometimes it's me, and sometimes it's
mm-hmm,
my husband, and sometimes it's my kids. But that means sometimes my kids aren't the glass ball. And sometimes I'm not the glass ball, and sometimes my husband's not the glass ball. And learning how to say to myself and to them, hey, you're not the glass ball right now. Okay. Something else is just slightly higher priority. And it doesn't mean I love you less. It doesn't mean you're less important. It just means right now somebody else needs me, or something else needs me more. And that was really hard for me to figure out how to do, but it is how I survived,
mm,
because we cannot do it all. Any mom who says it's possible to do it all, any person who says it's possible to do it all, is absolutely lying to themselves.
mm-hmm.
They just
I
are
love that
faking
analogy.
it. So yes, figure out today's glass balls.
Yes. No, I love that analogy. I mean, it really makes sense. If you're juggling, yeah, you can't drop the glass ones. Those ones have to
Don't
stay in
drop
the
them.
air.
Yeah,
Wow.
figure out the
Oh,
ones you can drop and then drop
yeah.
them.
What does it mean to you to be living in your legacy?
Um, Mine is gonna sound really personal, but for me, my living in my legacy is that if worse came to shove and the absolute worst thing happened, and I did, there was a situation where I get to a point where I don't have long-term life, I want people to remember me for the positive influence I had in their lives. I want my kids to remember me for the positive influence I had in their life. Whatever that influence was, I want it to be positive.
Love that. Oh, Mallory.
Thankfully, we don't
Hmm.
have to worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. That's just really personal and it's intense, but I'm really glad that you're willing to do that. Thank you, everybody, for joining Living Her Legacy today. I hope you guys enjoyed that blast from the past. It is always good to hear Mallory's message. Really take this to heart. Next time, I'm going to be sharing a little bit more personal experience with breast cancer and things like that. So I'd love for you to tune in, go ahead and follow the show, and I will see you next time.